So it's a day after the night before Eurovision 2016 came to a close, and after all that was said and done, it's Ukraine that has won Eurovision 2016. We're going to go through the top five, and we may as well start with the winner, which is Jamala in 1944. And it turns out silver is the new gold, as she came second in both the jury and the televote last night. Rob, what are you thinking?
It was it obviously isn't as bad as that, but it was a bit like when Azerbaijan won in 2011. It was kind of the best of the rest, which meant that it averaged out as the best of all of it. I'm quite happy. I didn't think it was going to win in the run up to the contest, but that's not to say that I'm not pleased that it did win. I would say it's nice that that a song with that meaning has won, even though Russia will tell you very differently. But I think it's nice that the song won, but I think it raises a lot of questions about what's next, really. She obviously meant every single word of that song. Like, she was so passionate and she was so in touch with the lyrics of that song. And she's incredibly talented. So it's a good song. I'm pleased it won. It's very different to anything that's won before, especially in the last sort of 5 or so years. But yeah, the next thing is they want to host it. Can they? Don't know. Not sure. Not sure about that one.
I'm happy for the most part that it's won, mainly because I'm going to say this right now. I was a huge anti-Australia fan this year. It's not because they were in Eurovision, not at all. Even though they shouldn't have been in it this year, I still stand by that, because last year it made sense, this year it didn't. And I just didn't like Dami's song, but we'll get onto that in a minute. I am happy it won, I think, but I have to agree, yeah, I'm a bit... NTU has said this morning they plan to host it.
Yeah, the next few weeks are going to be so interesting, because what are they going to be able to do to prove that they can host it? Because they didn't enter last year. They come back and win it this year. How on earth are they supposed to host it this year?
Yeah,
next year.
Obviously, at the time we're filming this, there's still unrest between Russia and Ukraine and the Crimea. Most of it when it's in the Ukraine seems to be in Donetsk, which is quite a long way away from Kiev, where it's most than likely going to be hosted. But that being said, obviously, there's going to be a lot more security and routine checks, just in general at airports and everything. So I think the first thing they need to do is confirm to the public and press and everyone else that it is safe to travel there. Otherwise, people won't.
It's great that it won, but there will be far fewer fans from other countries in Ukraine this year. Next year than there was in Sweden and the year before and the year before.
Yeah, I think if we're going on nations that have hosted it, this is the least appealing to go to, the Ukraine.
This is the least appealing to go to since Azerbaijan.
Oh god, yeah, totally agree with that one.
Since 2012, I would argue, which is a shame, because that's not what we should be worrying about. I mean, we shouldn't be discussing this straight after Eurovision. We should be discussing how great the winning song was, and it is brilliant.
Yeah, it's a brilliant song.
It's really good.
So, like I said, she deserves it. I'm happy it won, but obviously everyone looks to the future, and this is now we've got to look forward to, and it's a bit of a worrying thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But we'll see. I'd like them to host it, and I'd like them to host it really well, and I'd like to go, and I think it'd be very interesting. But that's all very much up in the air at the moment. But there is a lot of time for that to change, because, as you say, as we film it, it's the day after, so we don't know very much at the moment.
Fingers crossed. Moving swiftly on, we're going to go to second place, which is Australia, Dami in Sound of Silence. It got 511 points. It won the jury with 320 points, 109 ahead of Ukraine, but it fell 4th in the public vote, which has eventually cost it the title. Didn't like the song. It's a very boring Eurovision ballad. I said this in our Australia review. It's ballad by numbers. The holograms just didn't look good to me. I'm still surprised they got away with using the lyric FaceTime, because I don't care what you say, it is Apple. She's singing about Sound of Silence. You keep calling. It's about a long distance relationship, and you use the word FaceTime, and it's a computer interface behind her. How can you not, use...
I think that's the least of our worries when Ukraine's song got let through and it wasn't political.
Fair point, but still. Before people completely howled at me, I'm not against Dami in this. I think she sang it absolutely perfectly, and she was fantastic last night. I will not fault Dami's voice at all. I just hate this song. I don't like it. It's boring. It's
This is the
so.
point at which
Ugh.
I will I will step in, and I am on the complete flip side of this. I think it was absolutely brilliant. It's an incredible song. She performs it brilliantly. It's a song that you're much more likely to hear out and about. It's a song you're much more likely to download in Western Europe than Ukraine's winning song. And I just think it's a really, really good song. When I said to you just before we started filming, if the final results had stopped at the end of the jury voting, would have been perfectly happy, regardless of the fact whether Australia should be here or not, which is obviously a big part of it. And I think everyone was very much, when Australia were winning, this is great and we want you to do well, but not this well. It's kind of like you can be part of the friend group, you can be part of the party, but don't be the main event. Kind of everyone's view on Australia. But I'm really pleased that it did really well. And it just shows that if you really, really try, how well you can do. Because in 2 years, Australia have had 5th and 2nd. It's not bad, is it?
Oh no, it's very, very good, and I will agree. But this, when we're saying it's a lot like 2011, I think this is another perfect example of it. As in, we saw with Italy in 2011, pretty naff song, quite forgettable if it's anyone else, but they just returned, so everyone's like, oh yeah, let's let our juries throw their points at them.
Yeah.
Was it 100 points ahead by the end of it? And then Azerbaijan was the best of the rest to put them to it, and this is the same. I think they wanted to keep Australia happy. SVT and the EU wanted them to win it. You could tell, putting them 13th when they had France in that list as well. Yeah. I'm just happy it didn't win, and it's just the song. It's not Dami, because even if she released this as a single, I would say it's very weak for her. But as I said, 2nd place, congratulations.
Yeah. Well
if
done.
they're back next year, I don't actually know, but
it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens once Asiavision properly gets underway, and because if Australia are going to, obviously, which they are going to be a massive part of Asiavision, then don't be in Eurovision.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But for now, I'm fine with them being a part of it. Sort of.
Just give the UK more points, please.
Yeah, exactly.
3rd place last night went to Sergei Lazarev, and You Are the Only One of Russia. The book. His favourite, and they got it slightly right. He won the televote with 261 points, but fell quite hard in the jury, only finishing 5th with 130. This was a surprise for me, and I haven't got it to hand. Philip Kirkorov, who was with Sergei the entire time and looks terrifying to me, he put on Instagram about how every country in the televote gave Russia points, and then 21 avoided Russia in the juries, saying that was a bit unfair and how the public should decide. A little convenient that, considering the year they win the televote, it should be, oh no, the televote should decide it. And obviously they won with Dima Balan with the televote, which is why the juries came in.
Yeah.
I think 3rd's a fair spot for it. I said top 3 were not a winner, and I think it reflects it. I think the 4 songs that did beat it are fair, and I think it did deserve to win the televote, because I could see it winning the televote. And so
it's very much the people in Eastern Europe would have been all over that. You know, they would have been all over that song. Sergei is a massive star in Eastern Europe, so obviously they're going to vote for him. But it's the first time for a long time, first time for a lot of years that, well, since 2011, I mean, we keep comparing this year to 2011, first year since 2011 that the bookmakers and the betting have got it wrong. Because inherently, the last few years, the favourite has always won Eurovision. And I was worried about that this year, because I didn't want Russia to win, mainly because them hosting Eurovision with all of their policies and all of their political ideologies would have been absolutely horrendous. That's not to put anything against this song. It's a very good song, but a bit like you called Australia's song like Ballad by numbers, Sergei's song was a Eurovision winner by numbers. It was, oh, this screen was a good idea last year, let's do that. Oh, you know, let's do all of this. And it was a good song, it was catchy, but it just didn't have that final bit of magic, I don't think.
No, and I think that's where the jury's picked up on it, because it's a good enough song for someone who's going to watch it for 3 minutes and forget it. But if you look beneath the surface, you see a lot of faults with the song. It was a dated 2007 entry. I compared it to Moldova's entry this year, just with a bit more money behind it, and it was.
It would it would have absolutely run away with Eurovision in, like you say, the era when Dima Balan won Eurovision. It would have absolutely run away with it in the mid 2000s. But Eurovision has moved on, but that song hadn't.
Yeah. And just to pick on it, because the Ukraine have won, sources in Russia are calling for Russia to withdraw from Eurovision 2017. There's no confirmation or denial about whether this will happen right now. I hope they don't, because they always put on a good show with their acts. But at the same time, Ukraine Friday morning said we'll withdraw if Russia win. So could they do it back to them? Because
it'd be really interesting if Russia didn't take part, because as long as we've been around and as long as we've been very much into Eurovision, Russia have always been there, and Russia have always been a contender. And the idea of Russia pulling out would be massive. It's almost like Sweden pulling out.
Yeah.
Almost.
It's a bit bizarre.
Big news.
Yeah. But just a little side point, I do find it a bit bizarre the timing of NTU coming out saying we'll withdraw, which is the morning after their semi-final. They said, "Oh, if Russia win, we're not going to withdraw. We're not going to participate."
Yeah.
And I get why, because of the safety and whatnot. But a part of me thinks was that slightly tactical?
Yeah, I think it was. Absolutely.
They're like, right, we know we're a contender. We know Russia are. We don't want Russia to win. Let's get them on our side, because people like Ukraine.
They said it with enough time for the juries watching on that Friday to have that in the back of their mind as well. So this isn't to take away from the fact and say that it shouldn't have won.
No, not at all.
But 100% it was tactical. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's just the timing of it. Like, they've been a contender for at least a month, and then suddenly the morning of the jury final, oh, we're withdrawing. Yeah. It just makes no sense for me. But
say that on the Monday.
Yeah.
Say that the week before. Don't say that the day before the final.
It's a tad bizarre. Yeah. Fourth place was another returning country, Bulgaria. Polygenova, if love were a crime. Came fifth with the televote and then seventh with the jury. Fantastic result for her and Bulgaria on their return. And I said it was a dark horse, but I never thought it would do this well.
I'm really pleased with this. I mean, I think if you kind of look at the top five, four of them, obviously we'll touch on Sweden in a minute, but if we look at the top five, Bulgaria is the shock of that top five. But it's a pleasant surprise, because it was fun, which is everything the jury hates normally. It was fun. She was really charismatic. It was a song that you couldn't take too seriously. It was great. A good message as well. I mean, Mans used it in his little dialogue, didn't he, after the semi-final on Tuesday? And yeah, good, brilliant, well done, Bulgaria, really good. And it was the best song they've entered for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, their first final in 9 years, rightly so, and so it was a serious message, but it was done in such a fun way that you just enjoyed it. And like I said, even though the chorus, you can't understand what she's saying, I know people who can dissect the language for me, but people were too busy enjoying it, and they were singing along, that it worked. And also, the Bulgarian lyric translates to "Give me love," and if you sang it in English, that sounds a bit like a harping at boats. So I think that was quite clever putting it in Bulgarian. Still didn't like what she was wearing. Still wasn't a huge fan of the staging, but she
looked like a Pokemon gym leader. I said that to my friends. She looked like a Dragon Master in Pokemon with the whole cape and the dress and stuff. But it worked. It worked for her. What is also great about this is that because a country like Bulgaria has done well, it means that Bulgaria will come back next year.
Indeed.
And it's always nice to have Bulgaria, and it's always nice to have as many countries as we can.
Yeah. And obviously we hoped Polly would do well after, again, 2011, what happened there. But I don't think it was because of 2011 she did so well. I just think it was because it was a good song. And I did think she was going to get left behind going 8th in the running order and right before Sweden. But again, proven wrong. She stood up and she did very, very well. So
she did. That was the best performance she'd done, I think, as well. Yeah. Like when you watched it in the semi-final, like it was good. It wasn't great. Deserved to go through. And then in the final, she properly just gave it some welly, and it was good. Very good.
I hope, if they do send her again next year, can she just lose the light up chevrons and her knees and arms? That's all I ask for.
Completely unnecessary. I don't even get what they added to the song.
The outfit was unnecessary. Let's be honest, the whole outfit wasn't needed.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's very
Uh,
true.
and rounding out the top five was Sweden.
If I were sorry, I'd give you all the glory. If I was sorry, if I were sorry.
Who didn't finish in the top five in either polls, shockingly. They got
Mm.
sixth in the televote with 139 points, and then ninth with 122 in the jury.
Ah.
And the thing I want to pull up on the most is that, obviously, Sweden were the only Nordic country, and yet Norway completely ignored them in the jury vote and gave them nothing. Which
I was sat there. Like, here we go. Here we go. Right. Oh, Sweden aren't on there yet. 12 from Norway goes to Sweden. No. Okay then. Yeah, that was a surprise.
A complete curveball, which partly makes me happy because now we can say, right, politics and neighbour nations are dead. To an extent, I'd like to think.
To an extent, yeah.
Because Norway and Sweden are always buddies in Eurovision. The song itself, I said top 10, I wasn't sure of a top 5. I'm not shocked it got 5th. But
it grew on me. It grew on me as Eurovision sort of went on. I was furious that it won Melody Festivalen, because there were so many better songs than it. But when it was at Eurovision, it kind of came into its own because it was different. It was quite contemporary. It did very well in other countries before the final. It was charting on Spotify and on iTunes and all that sort of thing. And he performs it very, very well. And it's a good song. And if that had won Eurovision, it would have been quite a good song to win Eurovision in terms of promoting Eurovision to a wider audience. But equally, I thought it was quite lazy. A lazy choice from SVT and the Swedish public. So I'm pleased it didn't win, but I'm pleased it did well.
I mean, I understand why it won and maybe Festival now, just looking at the field it was in, it stood out for being quiet. But it is quite ironic that SVT are like, right, we've got this massive stage, you have a floor, you have lights, you have everything you can do with it. Yeah, I just want some black and gold and some lights to appear. It's a bit of a waste when it's in your back garden and you can have as much money as you want thrown at it. You're just like, nah, just put some sparkly lights on, that'll do.
Yeah, no, I mean, I imagine that was, that was obviously the plan all along, but it was fine. I'd like to see Sweden come back with a proper Sweden song next year, if that makes any sense. But I mean, it was ironic that they showed that whole medley of Swedish bangers and all of Sweden's excellent exports, and then their song was just a guy going "If I was sorry," which not great, not bad, but not great.
No. And just a quick honourable mentions to other acts that finished in the top 5 in the separate things, but didn't finish in the top 5 overall. Poland coming 3rd in the televote with 222 points.
Absolutely ridiculous.
They only got 7 in the jury and therefore averaged out to quite an okay placing, 8th in the end, but very, very
God for the jury. Can you imagine if that was entirely televote and Poland? We were sitting here saying that Poland had come 3rd.
Well,
can you imagine?
No.
Awful.
Hey, and the jury was a little bit different. France getting 3rd, Malta getting 4th, and Belgium was joint 5th with Russia. Now that stunned me. Little Loris Zorlo doing amazingly, going 1st and getting 5th.
Really pleased for Malta as well, because Malta's song was a banger. That was a great song.
I'm still on the fence about Walking Water.
If anyone is watching this, you all obviously must understand that Elliot has got horrendous music taste when it comes to Eurovision songs usually. So
says the one who liked Love Wave. Right. Okay.
Great song.
France getting 3rd. I can see why. I get it. Again, wasn't a massive fan of it. Don't care if we put it first in our jury.
We come back to 2011 again. And it's another one where France are going really, 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 really well. This is a great song. And like in the weeks prior to the contest, France were the favourites and France going to win it. And then we get to Eurovision week and it suddenly goes, exactly the same. Exactly the same. But hopefully they try equally as hard next year. And it's coming, their win. It's coming.
You say Malta as well, 4th in the juries, completely left behind in the televote though, which did surprise me, but hey ho. I
thought it would have been the other way around. I thought the jury they wouldn't have done very well in, and the televote they would have done better in.
Oh no, this was a jury song, 100%. It was a Swedish produced song, this was a jury song 100%. I did think it would be better in the televote though, but hey ho, back to Eurovision. But that is what we think. Agree or disagree, let us know. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all at the Euro Trip. Subscribe here as well, and let's see who's in the top 5 next year.